Hello and welcome to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
Before we introduce who our guest is, Joe's going to remind us of our show's purpose.
Our show's purpose is to unite people that are seeking service through stories of service. And we have great people on, just like Mark. Super excited to hear this interview. Mm-hmm. He's a really great guy, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, so we're having Mark Shockey on. He is the District 5950 Governor nominee for year 2025 and 2026. We hope you enjoy.
Ready to go get it?
I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
We'll be back. Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
It's just the two of us today.
Yeah.
Just the two of us. Before we go into who our guest is today, Joe is going to talk about our show's sponsor.
Yeah, our show is also sponsored by Russell Hampton. They make all kinds of really great printing, or they pretty much print on anything that you can imagine. They're the number one. I mean, Rotary uses them for everything. And it was funny, actually. What was I just looking at? I was just looking at something and I turned it around and it was Russell Hampton. I'm like, of course it is. Like, it's everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that sponsorship. And
we appreciate it.
Yeah,
we do.
Take her away.
So we have a very amazing guest today, and his name is Mark Shockey. He's in studio. We always love having our guests in studio, but I want to give the list of roles that Mark plays, because he plays some pretty important ones.
If you're listening to this on the podcast, you can skip ahead 30 seconds.
No, don't, because these are all very important. So first and foremost, Mark is a pastor at St. Peter's Lutheran Church here in Edina. He is also the 2025-26 District Governor nominee
for District 5950.
For District 5950, he also is a part of the membership team. Mm-hmm. He is Rotary Zone Tech Team, Executive Secretary of Rotary Club of Minnesota Veterans, and that was the last one. But those are all like that's because I started with the last one first, because that to me that one is very, very important.
There's a few Rotary things in my background and in my history that have been there in powerful ways.
Yeah.
So in fact, realistically, my Rotary life began on the first day of my first job. Well, my first full-time job. So,
which was?
I am a pastor, and so I was installed on Sunday. Monday, I was getting my office kind of cleaned up and ready to go. And my parents, who had been there for my installation, came, and my mother sat down in the chair, and she said, "This carpet is disgusting. Go replace it and send us the bill." And I was like, well, okay, that sounds good. So I went and I asked, where do you buy carpet? So I walked down on Main Street in a town in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and talked to the carpet salesman. And as we were walking back to measure the office, he said, "What are you doing on Thursday?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "I'll buy you lunch. Meet me here at this Italian restaurant." Well, he didn't mention it was a Rotary meeting. So that's how it began. And, and then it was you'll meet the funeral director and the police chief and the school superintendent and all kinds of great people in the community, even a great mechanic, and, come be a part of this. It's a great way to meet people. And we did. And the partnerships just grew incredibly from there.
We talk a lot about how the vocational component of it does get overlooked sometimes now. Like, it's definitely a subcategory of, the service is definitely the core piece of it, but it's amazing on how many people join because of their vocation. And I mean, it is incredibly valuable. And
we called it classifications.
Yeah, sure.
And the
Mhm.
whole thing with that in those days, it was very clearly there was only one person allowed from each profession.
Mm.
And so it was really quite an honor to be invited to participate in that way. And the great thing about it is, as a young professional person, I learned so much about leadership
Mhm.
Yeah.
from Rotary, from seeing what others did and the examples. And then the training has just been phenomenal throughout the last 35 years that I've gotten from Rotary.
Yeah, I agree. The training is really amazing. I mean, just the structure, and we've talked about this in other episodes. The structure of Rotary really lends itself to developing leaders because of the way that you have 3 years within your club. If you're going to be president, you kind of go through a cycle. You get to watch, you get to kind of soak everything in,
Yeah.
and then put your own stamp on it when it's your time, right?
Yeah.
Well, and as a pastor too, you are a leader within the congregation.
Yeah.
So
Well, and the other aspect is so much of what I do focuses around volunteers.
Sure.
Mhm.
So the thought that, corralling and identifying and setting volunteers free is identical in what we do in
Mhm.
my
Yeah.
day-to-day life as it is in my Rotary world. And how do we get people serving? And
Yeah.
that's the sauce that kind of is very similar between Rotary and church life. That is, it took me a while to be comfortable with that.
Hmm.
And then especially here, this whole idea of being invited to be a district governor. Why would anybody want to listen to a pastor? This is not a faith organization. So the idea that a pastor would be a district governor just made no sense in my mind whatsoever. And I just put the whole idea off for so long. And the reality is, I'm inseparable from my faith, and really every Rotarian is inseparable from their classification.
Mhm.
Mhm.
If you're an attorney, you go to a Rotary meeting and you're an attorney. If
Yeah.
you're a teacher, you go there, you show up, you have expertise in teaching, and
Yeah.
that's going to come out in your discussions. And I started to realize, well, wait, that's never been something that's been a hurdle for me when I've gone to Rotary meetings or when I've
Sure.
served and done things at district level. So why am I so afraid of that?
Hmm.
And I had put it off, and I was actually in South Africa, and I was invited to be on a Rotary podcast, and I was invited because of the whole faith issue. And, this is a real challenge for clubs now. Many clubs who were started 60 years ago with prayer at the beginning of every meeting. And
Yeah.
some people are so uncomfortable with that. How do you reconcile that? How do you deal with that? What do you do with that? And I just answered questions and I talked about it. And after it was done, the host said, I'm classified as an atheist, and I feel so comfortable now with Rotary and the connections to faith communities. I just want to thank you. And at that moment, I thought, okay, this is different. So
Yeah.
that was when I called the district governor from South Africa and said, okay, I'm in. Well, what do you
Mhm.
mean? I'll send you my application.
Yeah.
It's time I do this.
Well, and I
Nice.
mean, leaders lead at the end of the day too, and I think that leaders have crisis of conscience too. Like, I mean, I think that happens a lot for everybody, but specifically, I can understand some of the challenges for yourself and kind of trying to respect what Rotary is without. I'm trying to actually look for the right word of influencing or swaying,
Yeah.
because, but on the other side is I just go, Rotary is incredibly inclusive, and it should be inclusive of all things,
Yeah.
not just, you know, some things. It should be all things, and we should all become more tolerant and more understanding of one another, whether you agree with them or not.
Yeah, and realistically, we've come into Rotary with that expectation. I mean, it is a part of the mission of what Rotary is. Diversity is very clearly communicated in everything Rotary, and so we enter it that way. Now, unfortunately, the faith community in many ways has a lot of reputations. They're seen as people who are judgmental or hypocritical. They're people who are, stay away because they're going to evangelize you. They're going to do all of that. They're or the opposite. They're out of touch. They're old fashioned. What would we gain from being with people like this? Well, generally a lot. That's what makes Rotary so rich, is the generations that are a part of it, because we all approach things differently, but in the end, it's all about service above self.
Yep.
And that's what we want to be doing.
That's so good.
That is amazing. And I love the story of your South Africa story, with kind of getting that right person to, and I don't want to say you convinced the right person, but you inspired the right person to see you for you too. That's what it is. It's not,
it's a good way to put it.
See you for you, and to see how your skills, your experience, and your background can serve and can be are necessary, in my opinion. I think I'm a big leaders lead. I don't care about anything else other than, can you lead, inspire, and help people become the best versions of themselves, or steer them in right directions. And if you can do that, I mean, what else are we talking about? I mean, that's the whole point.
Why are we questioning the occupation behind the leader?
I just look at the 4-way test and I just go, are you honoring the 4-way test? Then what else are we talking about here?
That's a great way to approach it. The other thing too, I think this has really equipped me to prepare for my district governor role, because we've got an organization that's 119, almost 120 years old. And, an organization has to change in order to continue. It can't stay exactly the same. And so many clubs all around the world are looking at themselves and saying, well, how do we adapt? How can we be more attractive? How can we help people in our community that really support our community get involved in serving our community? And so that's what we do. Communities have changed, and so Rotary needs to change in the middle of all of that. And each club uses its own approach, and each one's different and diverse and unique, and that's the richness of what Rotary can really be. And then the other part is, I guess I felt comfortable that we don't really have to be afraid of that.
Right.
We have organizations that we partner with, like the Gates Foundation does incredible things for polio, and we've partnered with them in great ways. And through the years, Rotary has had partnerships with faith communities as we've done things all over the world, and with disaster relief and all sorts of things. And
similar goals, right? I mean,
exactly.
And when you stay on the goal versus, the how, I think we get wrapped into that too often. And it's at the end of the day, who are we trying to serve? Who are we trying to help? Who are we trying to make sure has clean water, has polio vaccines, has whatever? And does it matter? Should it matter?
Right.
I guess I like to ask myself those type of questions too. It's like, should it matter? Are we a little oversensitive about some of those things? Probably.
And here's a way to think about that. If we're focused on those who are serving, we're focused on the wrong thing.
Mhm.
Our focus needs to be on those who have needs. And how do we
Sure.
help them instead of, oh, should I be helping them? Well, if you see the need,
You should be
better
helping.
Yeah.
step in there
I'm-
and do
I'm
something.
following. Yeah, I follow that. I get it.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good North Star too, right? Like, because I mean, I do think we all get pulled, like we all get selfish. We all get selfish down the line. I mean, no matter how much we give, and and whatever your beliefs are, or whatever you feel that that make you, and that could be faith, that could be your community, that could be your family, it could be anything. And if any of those things kind of come under like any kind of a sense of threat or scrutiny, yeah, you get defensive naturally, right? So then I really do think, Mark, you've got it right on the money, where you got to keep your eye on the ball of what we're actually trying to accomplish. And if you do that, the rest of that just kind of disappears, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you kind of, and actually you have an openness to go, interesting. This actually did work.
I was looking at the Rotary vision statement earlier, and it's interesting because it begins with the words "Together we."